After I pulled the engine and transmission out, I went back and forth on if I wanted to do a Crown Vic subframe swap. As you can tell by the title of this video, I came to a work-intensive decision. I hunted all the usual hotspots for good parts. I found a place called Ford Heaven in Ennis, Texas through Facebook Marketplace. $350 later, Matt was dropping my new-to-me subframe in the back of the truck. Of course, this meant that the whole front end of the truck would have to come off. Alright, so last night I got home from work about 5 and worked on this for about 2 hours, just getting the front end tore off as much as I could. Didn't really film a lot, but I mean, this is pretty straightforward stuff here. The fender is held on by 3 bolts, 1, 2, 3 underneath. There's one that's a little bit bigger right about here. That took a 9/16. Everything else took a 1/2 inch. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolt holes on the front here. The hardest one to get to, you have to come in through the door, and that's this one right here. It comes out. I was able to get it with a 1/2 inch flex head ratchet wrench, but you could probably get it with a socket and a universal swivel. So yeah, anyway, so went and rented a spring compressor from O'Reilly's today. About to try and compress these springs. Well, not right this minute. I got some more of this stuff to strip off, but yeah, do this one piece at a time. Alright, so far to get to this point in the disassembly, I've only had to use hand tools and my battery impact. The most specialty tool I've used so far is that power washer to clean everything. I did go rent a spring compressor from O'Reilly's today to take out these springs, and it is almost time to break out the welder. I've got a piece of angle iron I'm going to weld across the top and the bottom here to keep the frame from tweaking once I pull this front suspension out. Literally, I just started on this yesterday at 5 o'clock after I got off work. Worked for about 2 hours on it last night, and been at it off and on since about 11 o'clock today. It's now 4, so I've got, let's see, 4, 5, 7 hours, and screwed off probably at least 1 to 1.5 of those, so maybe 5 hours so far in this teardown. For the pinch bolt here on the steering gearbox, you have to have a 12.7/16 socket. Alright, so for this one I did something stupid, I think, maybe, or it could be impressive. I don't know yet. I took the 2 bolts out, retaining the top of the spring. I then used my floor jack to compress the spring all the way until the suspension loaded, and then took the retainer bolt out of the bottom. Since I have this thing on jack stands, I think I should be able to let the jack down and then unload the spring, or at least get it close enough to where I only have to use the spring compressor a little bit, just enough to clear. So, alright, getting back after this again. I watched some more videos, and another way to take out these springs, take the I-beam bolts out, and then the whole thing will come out. Of course, you still have to take this bolt out and those 2 out on top, but that's another way of using the jack as a method to get that out. Now, I also want to take a minute to say that yeah, I'm not really doing this swap by myself. I've watched a lot of videos on YouTube, other channels like Black Label Garage, Minnesota Motors, and I hope that you use this video along with some of those other resources to do your swap, and you'll find there's a lot of different ways to do the same thing, and hopefully you find a combination that works right for you. Here I am using a string and tape measure to mark center on my frame rails. After 47 years of wear, tear, and who knows what, I wanted to make sure that the center of the new subframe rides on the center line of the old I-beams. I really took my time here and measured many times. Next, I pulled the cotter pin and nut off of both of the trailing beams. I used my cotter pin puller for these stubborn 47-year-old cotter pins. I've really come to love this tool, and I will do a review on it at a later time. Here, I kicked the wrench to knock the nut free. I hit the release on the jack stand. That could have been bad if there was any height on it. One of those details I missed. So from now on, I'll make sure to turn the release away from my work area. Alright, I've got everything unbolted. I'm about to try and pull this front end out. The trailing arms were stuck in there pretty solid. This probably would have gone easier if I had had a ball joint fork here. All said and done, this was about 45 minutes of coaxing. I made sure not to damage anything. I sold these parts to a guy with the bump side F100 for $150. He wanted disc brakes on his truck, but he didn't want to do the subframe swap. Belongs to me now.
When people are driving by and they glance over this way.
What in the redneck shit is that? What kind of hillbillies live in this neighborhood that they feel like they could just take a truck apart and do whatever the hell they want on their own property? I don't want to have to look at that.
70 years ago, on March 8th, 1950, the first VW bus was manufactured.
Nice.
How cool is that?
Very cool. Now worth $700,000 at the Barrett Jackson. sometimes violence is the answer. Alright, so here's the new subframe and front end. It's about to go in the truck here. The guy who took it out just cut the frame off directly. He did a pretty good job on saving everything. There's a lot of hack jobs I've seen, but this one don't look too bad. It's actually not out of a Crown Vic. It is out of a 2004 Mercury Grand Marquis, which is the same exact front end, but probably a little bit more grandma driven than some of the Crown Vics were, so hopefully not as wore out. I am going to be replacing these trailing arm bushings. This one's pretty loose there. So yeah, I'm kind of just making this up as I go, so I'll show you my mistakes and what I did right along the way. The next thing I'm going to do is start tearing it down though. I've already cleaned a lot of it. Probably going to shoot some paint to it, just because everything else is getting painted, so why not this? But yeah. Don't get that hoodie dirty or your mama will kill me.
Why?
Because that's your good hoodie.